All right, good morning, everybody. We still got a few minutes before we're actually going to jump in and go live. But before we get started, why don't y'all just share what part of the country you're watching this webinar from? All right, I'd love to hear more about where you guys are, and we still got a few more minutes. People are going to be trickling in, so again, good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are in the country. And just go ahead in the chat box and enter where you're viewing from. Florida, Texas, Atlanta, Utah, Vegas, all good places. Arizona, nice. Oh man, here we go. Here goes everybody. Lots of California. Bill from Indiana, Lauren from Tennessee. What's up, Lauren? Ooh, San Diego. I'm getting all my my vacation destinations set up right here. This is great. Is the audio okay on everybody's end? We're doing all right. We'll go over some other housekeeping things in a bit here, but yeah. And I also know there was a lot of applicants who'd mentioned they wanted to be live, but they weren't going to be able to because they had some other commitment. So there will be a good group of us that are going to be live, but there'll also be people that are just going to catch the replay that will be sent out afterwards. Yeah, just another minute or so, and then we'll get ready to rock and roll. It's exciting. We had over 200 people sign up, which is awesome. And we'll still have some more trickle in, and the majority of them will catch the replay later. But really good response. I'm super excited to be able to work with all of you guys and to share the content that we've got for today. It's going to be awesome. And I've definitely put a lot of time and energy into this because I want you guys to be able to succeed and to be able to get into that DPT program of your dreams. So, all right, it's 10. So we're going to get started. But we still have some warming up to do, so we'll still let some people trickle in. And wherever you're tuning in from, I'm so excited to be able to have you here today. Welcome to the Physical Therapy Application Coach live webinar, How to Write a PTCAS Essay That Is So Good It Can't Be Ignored. The fact that you're here today tells me a few things about you. Most likely, you are applying to PT school this application cycle. You may be here because some people have told you that you aren't a strong writer, or even worse, you have told yourself some of these things. Many of you may be here because you have a crazy busy schedule. You're taking classes, you're studying for the GRE, you're working, and you want to learn how to write your PTCAS essay as quickly and efficiently as possible. Some of you may be here because you are very proactive and you've already written an essay for this cycle, and you're wondering if what you've written is actually good enough to turn in. Some of you may be here because you think you're boring, you're not interesting, or you have no idea what you actually should include in your essay. If you've had any feelings like these or something similar to them, you are in the right place. I've been there, guys. I will tell you more about myself in a bit, but trust me when I say that I remember exactly what it feels like to be overwhelmed, afraid, exhausted, when preparing to apply and actually applying to PT school. I'm here to tell you that if you really don't know how to write strong application essays, it's not your fault. There's so much information out there that it can be overwhelming to sift through it all to find the truth. We have been trained all of our lives to write in a certain way by our teachers. But that way may not be the best way to ensure that your essays stand out against the hundreds of others that will be reviewed by admissions committees. If you are afraid that you won't be able to complete your essay in time, or you are scared that, again, you aren't interesting enough as a pre-PT, I am here to show you how every applicant is and can be interesting and can write essays that stand out in a time-efficient manner. You can succeed. You just need the right person to show you how. Pre-PT advisors may have told you to look into a different career because with numbers like yours, you will never be able to get into PT school. You may have been told by professors that you aren't a skilled writer, And I'm here to tell you that those things are not true. With a strong essay, you can make up for holes that may exist in your application, and anyone can become a great writer if they are taught how to write in a way that catches the attention of their reader. Unfortunately, we have been fed lies in school about what makes a good essay, and it's time we dispel these lies. My success is 100% driven by your success. My coaching system is run on pre-PTs seeing others who use my system get accepted into PT school. During this webinar, I want to show you how you can use your application essays to be transformed from a pre-PT into a DPT. So my goals for today, whether this is your first time applying to PTCAS or you are a reapplicant, I want to do all that I can to make these the last few months that you will ever have to think about applying to PT school, and instead devote all of your energy towards your ultimate goal of becoming a doctor of physical therapy. My goal for this webinar is to show you how important your PTCAS and other application essays truly are to your application. I want you to come away with from this presentation knowing how to make sure your application essays are actually read and that they stand out from the competition. I will have succeeded today if you leave this webinar with a clear direction about how to write your application essays, regardless of the prompt. Then you will be able to go out there and dominate your essays and your PTCAS application as a whole, and also be able to help others who may be struggling to write their essays. For those of you who are looking for more guidance and direction with knowing how to write a PTCAS essay that is so good it can't be ignored, I will be providing you with an exclusive offer at the end of this webinar. Now, are you guys ready to rock and roll? Go ahead and type "Let's rock" in the chat box if you are ready to go. So, a couple items of housekeeping that I wanted to touch base on. If the video ever freezes, please just let me know. I will pause and I will wait for the connection to get back up. But don't forget, there is a recording of the webinar that will be sent out a few hours after it's over. And you can rewatch the entire presentation if you miss anything. You will receive an additional email later today with a summary of key points and additional info regarding the offer that I will be sharing with you at the end of this presentation. Look at this. Everybody's ready to go. Let's rock, everyone. Sorry, the chat feed's a little delayed. But yes, let's rock. Let's get this rolling. I will answer your questions at the end of the webinar, but if you have questions that come up and you don't want to forget it, go ahead and enter it into the chat box at any time. And then I'm going to scroll through the chat box and answer your questions when we get done at the end. All right. Today's webinar is going to be approximately 1 hour and 15 minutes. We likely will go over that time with questions at the end, but I want to respect your time, so I will do my best to stick with that time frame. And guys, if you like what you learned today, feel free to take a screenshot of the webinar and show some love on social media. You can tag me with the PTAPCO, PTAPPCO. That's Physical Therapy Application Coach, shortened. So I want to give you guys a little bit more background about me. The truth is, I haven't always been a PT school essay expert. This is a picture of my wife and I, along with our parents, on our wedding day. Our 5-year anniversary was yesterday, actually, and it has been an amazing 5 years. I love my lady, and she has been absolutely amazing and nothing but supportive, loving, and understanding since the moment I met her. This story begins after we have only been married for 3 weeks, when I was writing my PTCAS essay and putting all of my information into PTCAS. I remember feeling the weight of our young family's future hanging over me like an anvil as I wrote my PTCAS essay. I was sitting at our little kitchen table in our first apartment. It was an old garage that had been converted into a residence. It had cinder block walls that had been plastered over with this nasty green vinyl to make the place look more presentable. I also remember that there were these black and red beetles that would crawl through the cracks and the crawl spaces in the walls. and I had to kill at least 2 or 3 of them every hour. This apartment was a dump, but it was our dump and was what we could afford at the time. I felt like if I failed with my application, that our future was toast. I also didn't want my wife of less than a month to see me fail at something that I had been working on for over 3 years. All I wanted was for my hard work to pay off, for my wife and my family to be proud of me, and heck, I wanted to be proud of myself too. I wanted to be able to take that next step in becoming a physical therapist, to know that my future was secure, and to feel that I belonged in this world that I had immersed myself in. One of my biggest issues were my fears and anxieties flooding my mind with noise. I had a writer's block like you wouldn't believe. I was trying to write all the time, but it never amounted to much. I just wanted this essay to be done with, but truth be told, I had no clue what to write about. I felt like I had a vice grip around my brain, my heart, and my stomach because I was stuck, fearful, frustrated, and confused. I also struggle with comparing myself to other applicants who seem to be whizzing through the application process and submitting their applications long before I had a completed essay draft. Inside, I wanted to feel like a winner and hush all the doubts and the doubters that had surfaced since opening my application. Have you had some thoughts like these creep into your mind lately? After trying to write a coherent draft for weeks, I realized that all of the schooling I had received on how to write an interesting essay wasn't working because everything I had written and was coming up with was shallow and boring. This was the most important essay of my academic career and arguably my life up until that point. And sure, I could answer the prompt, but I was falling asleep reading my own essay. Nobody was going to read this thing. I needed someone who read this to see what an awesome person I was, not take a nap. If anyone needed help writing their essay, it was me. One day, I sat to write again, and it came to me like manna from heaven. The process that I could use to write any application essay. After I switched gears, I was able to finish a first draft that I could be proud of in a couple of hours as opposed to days and weeks. I had found my solution, and today I'm going to be sharing it with you. Now, you may be thinking that I finished my essay in 2 days and submitted my application and was accepted into my dream program, right? Nope. I was going to school, working, completing my applications, and trying to manage life as a new husband all at the same time. My application did not go exactly as I planned, and there definitely were days I felt like it would never get done. Somehow, little by little, I submitted my applications and started to hear back from programs. My dream school was the first program to contact me. They sent me an outright rejection email that as I read it, it felt like an elephant sitting on my chest. I felt crushed, and I was afraid that my application was all for naught. But a quiet confidence inside helped me to know that everything would be all right. Long story short, I was accepted into the other 5 programs that I applied to, and I ultimately chose Northern Arizona University, which turned out to be my real dream school. I had finally done it. The years of hard work and sacrifice had finally paid off. I was that much closer to fulfilling my dreams of becoming a DPT. I was so proud of myself, and so were my wife and my other family members. My future was secure, and I could breathe a little easier about taking care of my family. I felt like I was really a part of the physical therapy community, and it felt amazing. At the end of all of this, there was something else that changed inside me that I was not expecting. I rediscovered what I loved about myself as a person, why I really wanted to become a physical therapist, and why I was perfectly at peace with all the hard work that I had put in, no matter what the outcome was. After going through all of this trouble myself, I knew I wanted to create a process that would make writing incredible application essays much easier for future pre-PTs, aka you. From that moment on, it became my mission to provide pre-PTs with the simplest yet most effective process to write application essays that are so good, they just can't be ignored. So this is me, Dr. Sean Brewer. For qualified applicants that I work with, I have a 90% first-time application success rate, with the majority of those applicants being accepted into their top choice programs. This is opposed to the 56% acceptance rate from the most recent PTCAS applicant data report, which does not differentiate between first-time applicants versus reapplicants. Qualified applicants who work with me have a 34% greater likelihood of getting into PT school than those who don't. That's a huge advantage. And I know some of you may be asking, what does he mean by qualified applicants? Does that mean only people that have a 4.0 and get a perfect score on the GRE and have 10,000 observation hours? No, that is not what it means. A qualified applicant is someone who meets a program's necessary requirements and does not have their application disqualified due to application materials not being received by PTCAS or DPT programs in the appropriate timeframes. That's all that means. I have over 7 years of coaching pre-PTs under my belt. I graduated in 2018 from NAU with my Doctor of Physical Therapy degree, go Lumberjacks, and now I work for ATI Physical Therapy here in Arizona. While I was at NAU, I was invited to review application essays and perform interviews for 17 applicants hoping to gain a seat in NAU's incoming class. This experience was beyond eye-opening, and I'll be sharing much more about this later on. Over the last 2 years, I have personally reviewed 172 application essays or personal statements and performed 81 mock interviews. I coach applicants from the north, the south, east to west, midwest, southwest, northeast, you name it. You got a direction? I coach people in that area. So with all of that in mind, it definitely is not a complete accident why I'm here speaking with you today. So this slide is to give you a brief peek into the programs that clients that work with me are accepted to. Again, these are programs from all across the country, and this number is going to just keep on growing. These are all great programs that I couldn't be prouder of those that I coach and the number and variety of DPT programs that these people are accepted to. I want you guys to go ahead in the chat box, type in your dream school. Where do you really want to get into PT school? I want you to be thinking about that program all today as we go through this presentation. But go ahead and type in the programs that you're excited to apply to, okay? So I wanted to give you guys a quick taste of what my essay coaching can do for someone's essay. This is a first draft that I received from one of my clients. I will read these opening sentences out loud, and then we will compare the opening of this with the future product, with the final product that we finished after our last coaching session. When I decided to study abroad with semester at sea, I envisioned myself hiking the Great Wall of China, skydiving over the Cape of South Africa, and gazing at the Taj Mahal at sunrise. What I was not prepared for were the unexpected moments I would share with the locals I met in each country, and the fact that several of these moments would completely alter my outlook on the world and my career path. I had always known that I wanted to go into the medical field. Okay, solid, right? To the untrained eye, this is not a bad essay at all, but we definitely can do better. So here is the same essay after our final coaching call was completed. I gazed out the window of the rickety bus and watched the red dirt road wind through miles of lush green vegetation. My classmates and I were headed to an orphanage about an hour away from the capital city of Ghana in West Africa. I walked into the lobby of the orphanage and opened my backpack to distribute toys and school supplies to dozens of beaming children. I couldn't stop smiling as we played with the kids, running back and forth, playing basketball, and watching them play with the yo-yo for the first time. I wish I could read the rest of this essay to you guys. This is one of my absolute favorite essays that I've edited. Do you see the difference here? Which one of these has your brain on fire and you are seeing imagery and having vivid pictures created? I want you to go ahead and share your thoughts about the differences between these two essays in the chat box. Now, y'all need to know that this first essay isn't bad at all, but not bad doesn't mean it's good or great. Who out there wants to submit an essay that's mediocre? Anybody? I have any takers? Nobody. Good. I should hear crickets because this is your future we are talking about. And because you are here at this webinar today, I know you aren't someone who is fooling around with your future. You are locking it in and dialing it up to 11. All right. So let's get to the 3 secrets that we're going to be talking about today. Secret number 1, how to make sure your PTCAS essay actually gets read, how to make sure your essay separates you from the competition, and how to overcome writer's block and essay procrastination. Thank you guys for all your comments. I completely agree. Detail, imagery, all those things. Okay. All right, so let's jump into secret number 1. As I mentioned in my introduction, in 2017, during my second year of PT school at NAU, I had the amazing opportunity to review the application essays and sit on an interview panel for 17 potential applicants who are being considered for NAU's incoming DPT class. There were 3 of us on the panel, one of my professors, an alumni, and me. We were handed these large file folders that had each applicant's portfolio, and we were encouraged to review their application essays and letters of recommendation specifically before the interview. When I began to review each applicant's essay, I came across something shocking. The vast majority of these essays were, to put it bluntly, super boring. Only 2 of the 17 PTCAS essays that I reviewed held my attention enough so that I actually read the entire thing. The other 15 were lucky if I got past the first few sentences. This blew me away because NAU is an incredibly competitive program. These pre-PTs were the cream of the crop from around the country, and the vast majority of them had subpar essays. I could see other professors and clinical alumni partners doing the same thing that I was doing. They would scan for a few seconds and then move on until they came across an essay that actually held their attention. I could tell when this happened because their faces literally changed. It was like a switch went off in their brain when an interesting essay showed up on their stack of papers. They were relieved to finally have something interesting to look at. Many times after intently reading an essay, these professors and alumni would write notes next to the name of that applicant. Boom, baby, jackpot! Those pre-PTs were the ones that wrote an essay that stuck with the reader from the first few sentences. I was genuinely so much more excited to meet the 2 applicants who wrote amazing essays because I already felt connected to them, and we had something natural to talk about during their interview. Isn't that what you want to have happen on your interview day? Go ahead and type heck yeah in the chat if that's what you want. Now, the thing that shocked me even more was that these applicants were using the exact same process that I used when I had my eureka moment about writing my own application essays. That was when I knew I was really on to something, and that I needed to share what I learned with pre-PTs from all over the world. Oh, and you know something that is very interesting? One of the 2 applicants who had an amazing essay had a noticeably lower GPA than the average of the rest of the group I reviewed. Having an amazing application essay can literally make the difference between an interview invite or an acceptance offer or an outright rejection. Even if you feel like your GPA, your GRE scores, or your observation hours may not be as high as other applicants. Due to shakeups in the application as a result of COVID-19, having an incredible application essay that sticks with your reader will mean more now than it ever has before. Some programs have modified application requirements, and they rely much more heavily on the quality of your application essay to determine your ranking compared to other applicants. We've got to give her all she's got, Captain. All right. So many of you folks may have seen the unofficial 2020-2021 PTCAS essay prompt. It has been circulating the internet and the Student Doctor Network for a few weeks now. We know the official prompt. We won't know the official prompt until we actually open up the application cycle on June 17th. But I would imagine that you're pretty safe in assuming that this prompt will remain the same due to the large amount of people that have confirmed that this is likely what the prompt is. Okay? I just want to say that when I first saw this prompt, my jaw dropped a lot because the wording of the prompt once again confirms the epiphany and the process that I've been working on sharing with pre-PTs since my time at NAU. Let's break this down a little bit. Here are a few key phrases that we will look at to see if we can figure out what the folks over at PTCAS and the APTA are wanting us to do with this bad boy. Okay, first one. Every person has a story. Big reveal. They want you to use stories in your application essays. This is fairly common knowledge and is a fairly common recommendation for application essays, regardless of what field you're going into. Okay, this next one. Help others, please go beyond. This sounds something almost like Yoda would say, like, help others, please go beyond. Yes. You have to go beyond wanting to become a PT because you like helping people, and you need to also go beyond your initial experiences with physical therapy. And you want to know why? Because everybody says that. And admission teams are bored out of their minds reading essays that talk about the same thing year after year after year. All right, next one. Share the deeper story. They want more from you. They want some juicy details and some imagery to sink their mental teeth into. Confirmed your decision to pursue physical therapy. They want to see why your heart belongs to PT. Why PT above all other professions? Why are you passionate about this field? Oh, and did I mention that they want all of this to be done in 4,500 characters, including spaces? That's approximately 1.25 to 1.5 pages, single space, depending on the font you use. We don't have any room for fluff here, people. We don't have room for anything other than substance that is so good it can't be ignored. So let's break down what we've covered in secret number 1. My experiences at reviewing application essays at NAU taught me the importance of hooking your reader early. You have to grab their attention early if you want the essay to stick. Our review of the PTCAS essay prompt shows us that they want juicy and detailed stories. They also want you to share your love for the profession and go deeper than just wanting to help people. What is it about physical therapy that makes you want to devote a third of your waking hours over the next several decades of your life to it? Why this profession over any other? You will have to do some digging and some soul searching to find your answers, but it will be so worth it for your application and for your career. Just so you know, I'm not puffing smoke at you. I wanted to share a testimonial of one of my clients that used these steps and how it made a difference for him and his application. Give me a minute here just to pull this up.
Guys, my name is Zachary Burkhart, and I am currently a senior at Central Michigan University, and I was just accepted into Central Michigan University's Doctor of Physical Therapy program this past September. And I had the opportunity to work with Sean, the founder of physicaltherapyapplicationcoach.com, and got a chance to use some of his essay coaching services. And that's really what I want to talk to you guys about today, as they were a huge advantage for me as I applied to PT school this past summer. So really, why did I choose to use his essay coaching services? And it really went back to as I was approaching the date in which PTCAS went live this past July, the first week in July. I had all my essays written. They were all proofread by various professors. I had friends and family look over them, and I felt pretty okay with what I was about to turn into, specifically Central's admissions committee. However, I still had a feeling that something was kind of missing, and I really wanted to stand out in his essays because this was for me literally like my interview on paper. So it was really important for me to really kill it the first time, and Sean helped me do that. So I was very satisfied with the overall outcome, with me using his services, and I was very satisfied, really with the whole process. There's really three things that Sean did, to make this experience very valuable to me, as I was applying. And the first one was that he was very personable. From the first time I met him, we sat down and FaceTimed, and we talked about what I wanted to work on, where I needed improvement, and where he could, or what he could do to get me where I wanted to be, which was ultimately accepted into Central's program. And I did that, so I was very happy with what how he helped me in that process. So he was very organized and professional from day one. From the first email he sent me, he was very quick to respond, very organized in his system that he uses to help you create a first draft, all the way to helping me create and mold that meaningful and bold essay that I wanted to present to these admissions committees. And I was very impressed with how he handled that. The final thing that really made this experience so valuable, to me personally, was the follow-up. So after he helped me, after we had our meetings, he followed up through the whole process. So he was always checking in, seeing how I was doing in the process, if there was anything he could do to help, and he was always available, from the time I applied all the way through the time that I got accepted ultimately, which was really beneficial to have that support, through the process. So that was super nice. So really, I would strongly recommend Sean and his services through his website. He's top of the line in what he does. He takes what he does very seriously, which was very important to me. And if to any of you out there that are having second thoughts about your application, or worried that your essay may not be as strong as some of your peers, definitely get in contact with Sean, because he will take your essay, your personal statement, to the next level, which is what you want to have the first time you apply. You don't want to have to apply more than once. You want to do it right the first time, and Sean's going to help you do that, and really help you get into the school that you want to get into.
All right. So Zach is the man, and I'm so happy for him and appreciate his perspective on how these principles can help change your application, your future, and your life. Can you see yourself implementing this and getting the same results that Zach did? When I reviewed application essays for pre-PTs that we interviewed at NAU, I genuinely felt bad for the 15 other applicants that had weaker essays. They had probably spent days and weeks poring over what they had written, completing multiple drafts, and having everyone they could think of proofread their essay. The effort was there, but it was misguided and misdirected effort, and it ultimately resulted in a mediocre essay that did not get read. So how do we know what to focus on to make sure that our essay not only gets read, but also helps us to stand out from the competition? Some of you may have heard of the Pareto principle, or the 80-20 principle, or 80-20 rule. Essentially, it states that 80% of the results come from 20% of the effort. I want you to devote your energy towards the most effective activities, aka the 20% that will help you achieve the greatest results for your application. In order to do this, not only are you going to focus on stories, and not just any stories, but stories that showcase your greatest and most unique strengths as an applicant. This is tricky because we have been duped. The way that we have been taught to write essays in school does not work when it comes to writing high-level application essays, which is a huge bummer because your PTCAS essay is arguably the single most important essay you will write at this stage of your life. School does not teach you how to self-identify your personal strengths and share them with others in a compelling way. It takes some real soul searching and introspection to discover these things, and most people have to find them out the hard way, or they can be taught by someone else. We have been given a false structure and process for writing a good essay in school because our papers needed to be easily graded by a teacher. They taught us in a certain way so that they could easily check boxes on a rubric, not because it is the most effective way to write. I am telling you this now. There is no rubric when writing your PTCAS essay. It either sticks with your reader or it doesn't. So who cares about whether your PTCAS essay is 4 or 5 paragraphs? Does it show your greatest and most unique strengths as an applicant, and does it stick? If it does, then you pass. If it doesn't, well, then admissions committees will likely pass on you. Somehow, our academic training has failed to teach us these important skills. It certainly failed me when I was writing my PTCAS essay several years ago, but there is a solution. I wanted to share another client testimonial that demonstrates what you can do to stand out from the competition by showing your unique strengths. She will also talk about how difficult this skill can be even if you have previously done very well in writing classes.
Hi everyone, my name is Rachel and I want to talk to you guys about how PT Application Coach made the biggest difference for me. Just a little background, I attended Southern Utah University, and when I applied to PT school, I applied to 4 of them. With Sean's help, I was able to get interviews to all 4. I actually only attended 2 of those interviews, but I was accepted to both, and I ended up choosing Northern Arizona University. So go Lumberjacks, woo! So when I was working on my PT application, I was working and I was taking a class, and I was so busy. And I remember I wrote my personal statement. I thought I did a great job on it. I sent it to my PT advisors at my school before I even had started working with Sean, and they sent it back to me, and they said, this is not at all what they're looking for. You need to rewrite it. Here's some examples of past students. Try and follow that. I remember reading the other examples, and I was like, well, why is mine not good enough? And I just didn't understand it. And I was really frustrated because I had been what I thought was a really good writer. I had succeeded in a lot of writing classes, and I thought that it was ridiculous that I needed to change it because I did a really good job. Well, I look back at that now, and I realize it was pretty naive. And Sean was the one that helped me realize that. The best thing that he helped me with in my essays was he didn't just teach me, or he didn't just fix the one essay. He taught me the structure of how they want those essays to be written and how to highlight my strengths without seeming really braggy. And I think it's like that saying that it's like if you feed a man a fish, it's like a day. Teach him how to fish, they have food for a lifetime. Sean helped me with one essay, but because he taught me the skill of how to write those essays properly, I was able to write so many more secondary essays all on my own, which helped so much. The second thing that really helped me that Sean did was the interview prep. I watched the videos and I did a mock interview with him, and that helped so much. I'll be honest, I left my interview at Northern Arizona and I literally thought that was way too easy because it wasn't nerve-wracking. In fact, I was so excited to share what I was passionate about because Sean taught me that it's not just about giving like a good rehearsed answer. It's about, well, I'll save the details for his videos, but it's about highlighting yourself again with stories. And he taught me how to do that. He taught me that skill. So any question they gave me, I was able to stop, think, and answer properly. It wasn't that I'd pre-rehearsed every single answer, but because he taught me the skill of how to answer properly for any question, I was able to succeed with whatever they threw at me. The other thing that really stood out to me was my interview at NAU was a group interview, so I was able to compare myself to the 2 other peers that I was interviewing with, and oh my goodness, the preparation Sean gave me made me really stand out. And I don't say that to brag because I think if I hadn't done the prep, I would have been just like the other people that I interviewed with in the way that I answered the questions. And there was literally the biggest differences in the reactions I saw between when I answered in the way that Sean taught me versus when they just answered with a simple kind of commonplace answer that was good but compared to the technique that Sean taught me, it did not compare. And that's not to brag about myself, that's to brag about the skill he taught me, and anyone really can pick that up. He can teach you how to highlight your experiences to show why you would be a good PT. And it just really, really helped me stand up above my peers. So I would really recommend anyone to use this service, even if you think that you're a smart kid and you don't really need it. That's what I thought, and then I did it, and it made the biggest difference. I'd say it's definitely worth the money investment, because if you do this, I really do think it will help you get into schools more. You'll be a lot more likely to get in than if you don't and you have to reapply next year and spend all of that money. So I really need to thank Sean, because he made the biggest difference in my application, and I know he can do the same thing for you guys if you're willing to put in the work and let him help you. So yeah, thank you.
Okay. Rachel is amazing, and it was such a pleasure to work with her. She worked so hard to apply these principles, and I still consider her the single best mock interviewee I have ever worked with. She saw the vision of where these principles can take you if you apply them. Don't you want to have an experience like she did? I also love that she talked about how this process is not just a one-trick pony. You can apply these principles on all of your essays and your interview skills. And that is so true. So let's recap what we've learned about secret number 2. Writing like you were taught in school will not make you stand out. You will blend right in. I believe we have covered this pretty well. So enough said here. You're going to showcase your greatest character traits and unique strengths. Rachel has said this and taught this better than I ever can. And finally, buckle up. We're about to go to church, y'all, because I'm about to preach something. So listen up. A lot of people ask me what makes me different from other pre-PT coaches that are out there. And what I have truly found that makes me different is my ability to help every applicant I work with realize their greatest character strengths and unique traits. You live your life every day, so your character and your actions may seem ordinary to you. Because of this, you may not be able to see how incredible and awesome you are as a person and as an applicant. How your unique strengths and your personality will help your future patients and build this great profession. You may think of yourself as an ordinary applicant that has nothing special or unique to share. My gift is to show you how maybe you aren't actually as ordinary as you think you are, and that you do deserve to get into a DPT program of your dreams and achieve your ultimate goal of becoming a physical therapist. You have something special and unique to bring. You have ideas and perspectives that we need to help build this profession. And I believe that your potential contribution, your brick of brilliance, is what has driven and motivated you to endure all that you have to get to this point in the application process. Go ahead and type amen in the chat box if you agree with me, y'all. Go ahead. That's it. We're done with church for today. The years of work you put in to get to this point of your application can wear you down and fog your vision as to why you wanted to do this in the first place. The big why behind why I coach pre-PTs is because I love to hear your stories. I love to help you rediscover your strengths and passion for this profession. It fuels my passion and it keeps me going. I promise you. And you know what the best part is? No two applicant stories are exactly the same. You each walk your own road, and I love that because being your coach never gets old. There is something new every day. I love y'all. I really do. And I feel for you guys. Now, working with applicants for over 7 years, I can tell you that the vast majority of pre-PTs underestimate how long it is going to take them to write their PTCAS essay. This essay is, by and large, the single most time and energy consuming task of your PTCAS application. It is deceiving because you have this massive window of time between when the application opens and the date of the program deadline. Actually, I have a story to drive this point home, and it may sound familiar if you are anything like me. In high school, I had an English professor named Mr. Evans. He had a long hair and a handlebar mustache, and he wore a feather earring in one ear. He also liked to moo like a cow when he walked down the halls if people were walking too slowly. He was a character, this guy. A great teacher, but a character nonetheless. Anyways, we were reading Dr. Frankenstein in Mr. Evans' class, and he assigned us a paper in the midst of all the projects and tests that we were trying to manage during our midterms. For this paper, we were asked to discuss the parallels of a father and son relationship between Dr. Frankenstein and Frankenstein the monster. As soon as he gave us this assignment, I had this heavy feeling come over my entire body. You know that pressure feeling like you are being buried alive because you already have so much to do and you don't know how you can add one more thing? That's how I felt. The best and worst part was he gave us 3 weeks to complete this assignment. Because I was already busy and had no clue what to write about, that essay sat on my to-do list for 2.5 weeks. Eventually, it had all come to a head, and I finally said, okay, I have to turn in something. So over the next few days, I frantically put together some half-baked essay and turned it in, hoping I would somehow get a good grade. Well, I did horribly on it, and I had to suffer twice because I did so bad on it that I had to revise it in order to get it graded. Nothing like a daily double of torture. Thank you, Mr. Evans. So, why do I share this traumatic adolescent memory with you? Because this very same thing is what happens to pre-PTs that I work with year after year as they attempt to complete their PTCAS essays. They get writer's block and they don't know what to write about, so they put the essay off and off and off until the week of their program application deadline, and they put together some half-baked essay, hoping, just hoping, that it will either get them an interview invite or an acceptance offer. So how long should it take you to write your PTCAS essay? Well, the answer is, it depends. But I want to teach you a principle that you can apply to help you finish your PTCAS essays in a fraction of the time. The principle is called Parkinson's Law. And no, it has nothing to do with Parkinson's disease. So what is it? Essentially, it states that work expands to fill the time allotted for its completion. Or in other words, if a project has a deadline, it will take up until the deadline to complete it. So how can we use this principle to our advantage? We set extreme deadlines for completing your essays. We are motivated when we work towards deadlines that we have set for ourselves instead of deadlines that have been imposed on us. We experience eustress or positive stress instead of distress or negative stress when we devote our time, energy, and effort to a task that is self-directed or self-driven. So use Parkinson's Law. Set extreme self-imposed deadlines for completing your PTCAS essay, and you will find yourself completing this task much sooner and more efficiently, especially if you're applying the other principles that we've talked about previously. And even if you do not meet your self-imposed deadline, you will be much more likely to finish your essay before the program deadline comes a-knocking. Stories not only make your essay more interesting, they also provide a structure and ample content to be used when writing your essay. If you feel like you run out of stuff to write about, it's okay to use multiple stories that share similar or complementary strengths or ideas. You see in this picture that there are two roads that seem to go off in different directions. But what if both of them end up at the exact same place? You can fork your application essay by including multiple stories if you feel like you are running out of content from using only one. Nearly all of the applicants I have worked with have applied this, and it has worked beautifully. It keeps you more on task and focused, and more importantly, keeps your reader engaged. A change in story in the middle of your essay can be the spice that carries it across the finish line. To help showcase some of these principles that we have talked about, I have one last testimonial video that I wanted to share with you from an inspiring client named Christine.
Hello everyone, my name is Christine and I am from Honolulu, Hawaii, and I graduated from Hawaii Pacific University. I wanted to come here today because I wanted to share my story, and I wanted to share how Sean's services literally changed my life. A little background about me. I actually started my undergraduate career at the University of Oregon, and due to very tough family circumstances, my life brought me back home to Hawaii. Keep in mind, I packed up my entire life and I moved during my junior year of college, which is very scary for me. But I obtained my degree in the end. Flash forward 3 years later, I was ready to apply to physical therapy school. I had the grades, the GRE scores, and the observation hours that I needed for my application. So I started my application process and I held off writing my essay towards the very end. I was terrified. I had no idea where to start and what I was going to say. I knew that I needed to stand out as a candidate and I needed to show my personality, but how in the world was I going to do that? I actually stumbled upon Sean's application services and it literally changed my life. The best financial decision I've made thus far. Sean literally sat with me and we looked at my first draft together and I had a lot of work to do. I had a lot of actually self-reflection to do and to figure out if this was good enough to turn into graduate programs. Through a lot of hard work and a lot of revisions, I was good to go. By the end of it, I was invited to 4 different interviews. These interviews consisted of both group interviews as well as one-on-one interviews. Personally, I am very shy when it comes to interviews, and they're scary, and especially for graduate school. But with Sean's tools, interview skills, and mock interviews that we've done, I was more than prepared. The nerves, yes, were definitely still there, but I was prepared. I felt confidence in myself, and I felt empowered. At the very end of it, I actually got accepted into my reach school, my dream school, to Creighton University, and I'll be starting there in August. Honestly, it wasn't without Sean's help. There was no way I was going to get here on my own. I did the work, right? I did all of the undergraduate work that I needed to do. But Sean helped me pull my strengths into my essays and into my stories and in my interview skills. He helped me just show who I really am and just to be true and authentic. Along the way, it was a very difficult process. Before, the offers started rolling in, I got waitlist after waitlist, rejection after rejection. Through those difficult times, Sean would text me, call me, or email me saying, hey, keep your eyes on the prize, and what's meant to be will be. And if we need to do this application again, he literally told me he'd be right by my side and we'd kill this all over again next cycle. I was more than ready to do what it took to go to physical therapy school. And now I get to live my dreams and go to physical therapy school this fall, and it wasn't without Sean's help. So Sean, thank you so much for helping me accomplish my dreams and my goals, and I'm so excited for all the other applicants this upcoming cycle, and it's going to be an incredible journey and really eye-opening experience, and I'm so excited for you guys. Thank you, Sean, so much again.
Christine has one of my favorite comeback stories from this last application cycle. She was afraid that she would be rejected by all of the programs that she applied to. Fear of rejection is a real thing. I've experienced it myself, and it is no joke. Fortunately, being tough and gritty are some of Christine's greatest strengths. She trusted in the principles that we had been taught by using my coaching system, and she came out victorious in the end. Wouldn't you like to have a success story like hers? Let's recap what we've learned from secret number 3. We're going to use Parkinson's law by setting extreme deadlines for completing your PTCAS essay. Stories provide the structure and the content for your essay, and it is perfectly fine to use multiple stories in your essay. So let's do a big recap. Here is a summary from the 3 secrets from top to bottom. Okay. Hook your reader early, use juicy and detailed stories, share why you love this profession, go deeper than just helping people and your initial experiences with physical therapy. Writing like you were taught in school will not make you stand out. You will blend right in. Showcase your greatest character strengths, your greatest character traits, and unique strengths. Every single one of you has something special to share. I firmly believe that. You're going to use Parkinson's law by setting extreme deadlines for completing your PTCAS essay. Stories are going to give you the structure and the content, and it is okay to use multiple stories. So how many of you are excited about what we've just talked about? Right? I'm sure you're like, wow, there's so much that we've covered. There's all of these different ideas and things that I could apply on my own. But some of you may also be feeling a little overwhelmed because we've covered so much. Maybe you're even feeling a bit like this. It is impossible for me to go into detail about every one of these principles in the time that we have allotted for this webinar. I tried to cover as much as possible with a big picture view of what it takes to write PTCAS essays that are so good they can't be ignored. I've shown you the system for writing amazing PTCAS essays. You've learned how you can use your stories to showcase your strengths, which will ensure that your essay actually gets read and will help you stand out above the competition. I've also shown you how to overcome writer's block and procrastination by using multiple stories and setting extreme deadlines to ensure your success. But you know what? In order to be truly successful with this, you will need more than just information alone. I know anyone can be successful with this system, but you will need coaching. You will have individual questions that need answering, and you may need some help in the accountability department as well. I take my job as a coach very seriously. I won't let you quit on yourself or your dreams. We will get through this application process together. I can't do that with one webinar and a PDF summary because information won't cut it alone. As I shared earlier, my first time acceptance rate for qualified applicants is 90%, with the majority of those applicants being accepted to their top choice program. This is opposed to the 56% acceptance rate from the most recent PTCAS applicant data report. Qualified applicants who work with me have a 34% greater likelihood of getting into a DPT school than those who don't. Again, this is an incredible advantage over the competition. If information were enough to get you the results that you are looking for, you could just turn to Google. But what you are looking for is a guide who has been there before, who can take you to where you want to go, which is the DPT promised land. I told you all at the beginning that I was going to be sharing an exclusive offer with you. This offer will give you the same coaching that Zach, Rachel, and Christine used to help them achieve their goals and to get accepted into the DPT program of their dreams. Actually, you know what? You will be getting the same coaching and more because I'm always continuing to add value and push the envelope. What I'm going to show you are the coaching packages that I offer to pre-PTs to master and apply the information that I just shared with you. Next to each item will be a dollar amount, which represents the overall value, not the price of each piece of the coaching package. First, let's talk about the pro version of my essays and interview bundle package. This package is for applicants that are applying to programs that hold interviews because you'll have to write an essay and do interviews. It contains a video course that will help you go from no draft at all to an application essay that is so good, it just can't be ignored. On top of that, you will receive self-evaluation worksheets as well as real essays that were used by applicants to gain acceptance into DPT programs. These resources will be tremendously helpful when you are brainstorming or just starting out. You will also receive another video course that will help you become an interview master just like Rachel. You will hear me respond to and explain my questions to the most common interview questions. My list of top 40 mock interview questions will also help you get started with practicing the skills discussed in the video course. Now, as I mentioned, information is good, but accountability and application are so much better. So to help you apply these principles, you will receive 5 one-on-one coaching calls to be distributed however you would like, either for your essays or for your interviews. Each coaching call is 1 hour long and is broken up into 2 segments. For essays, those are the essay review and the edit review segments. The essay review segment is when I sit down and I review the essay that you email me ahead of time and figure out what we can do to apply the principles and make your essay as interesting as possible. The edit review segment is when we will sit down together and discuss the edits I made to your essay draft. Each segment is approximately 30 minutes. Mock interview coaching follows a similar pattern, but in opposite order. The first part of the interview session will be the mock interview. We make this as real as possible so that you can be comfortable like Rachel and Christine on the day of your interview. Wouldn't it be nice to feel like they did leading up to and after their interviews? The second segment of the coaching session consists of a review of your responses. As you answer interview questions, I will make notes of your responses to help you know where you did well and where you can improve. You then can take these notes and use them to help you practice giving genuine and interesting responses. Doesn't that just sound helpful? Why are there 5 coaching sessions? The majority of the applicants that I work with have the high quality essays that we are looking for after 3 coaching calls and feel much more prepared with their interviewing skills after 2 mock interviews. 3 plus 2 is 5 coaching calls. You, of course, can choose to distribute them in any way you would like to if you want to change up that distribution. For those of you who are applying to programs that do not hold interviews, there's also a pro package that only contains the essays materials we have discussed previously. The key difference to this coaching package is that it contains 3 coaching calls as opposed to 5. If you leave the webinar now, you may think you've learned a lot of cool stuff. But my guess is by this coming Wednesday, when the application opens, you will have forgotten most of what we have talked about and go back to writing essays the same way you did before. It's human nature. That is what most people do. But because I am your coach, your friend, and your mentor, I won't let you go back to those old ways. I'm going to make sure that you are successful by repeatedly exposing you to the full system and holding you accountable to that system. That's what you will get if you choose to sign up today. But before we roll out the sign up buttons, let me share with you some extra goodies that you will get by signing up with either one of these pro packages. Again, remember the numbers next to each of these items are the value of the item, not the price. So the first thing is the PTCAS checklist. This sucker is my pride and joy. I have spent weeks compiling countless communications with PTCAS, application instructions, as well as my own and previous applicants' best practices, all to ensure that you apply to PTCAS in the most effective and efficient way as possible your first try. The video courses you will be getting will get you going with your first draft, and the coaching calls will help you arrive at that incredible essay that you have been dreaming of. Not only that, but the PTCAS checklist is so efficient and streamlined, you can go from no essay draft at all to submitting your entire PTCAS application in 2 weeks. I know that these are big steps and that they can be scary, but don't worry, I will be there to help you every step of the way. The Pre-PT to SPT Survival Guide is a document that I have made to help you make the jump to the rigors of a doctoral level program. There are a lot of growing pains that occur the first year of PT school. To help minimize those growing pains as much as possible, I have compiled my top recommendations to help you as you transition into a student physical therapist. Proprietary reading list consists of textbooks that I believe are worth your investment in PT school and your future career. This will also include licensure examination prep books that I recommend as well. I also will share my top recommendations on the topics of personal development, self-care, mindset, personal finance, and business, both in and out of physical therapy. The Physical Therapist Financial Manifesto is a document that I have created that is a compilation of the best financial practices that I have found and personally have used to manage my finances as a pre-PT, SPT, and now as a DPT. I am not claiming to be an expert in finance, but I do have a lot of friends who are, and it is one of my personal passions to research and implement the best financial practices in my own life. Hopefully you can learn from the wisdom and mistakes of myself and others to improve your personal financial position. Last, but certainly not least, anyone who purchases either of the pro packages I have listed will receive automatic entry into the first ever Physical Therapy Application Coach Pre-PT Scholarship Lottery. The winners of the lottery will be announced on August 28th. One very lucky winner will receive $500, and 2 almost as lucky winners will receive one $250 scholarship each. For all you math whizzes out there, that is $1,000 in scholarships. You can use that money however you would like to for application expenses, or heck, go blow it on a vacation. I don't care. It's your money to use however you would like. No questions asked. So let's get back to the value. Again, for my math whizzes, if we add up everything in terms of value you receive from these coaching packages, we get $1,800 for the bundle package and $1,375 for the essays only package. So now that we have talked about the value, let's get to the actual price. The fair market value for this coaching product is $500, meaning that if you were lucky, the lucky $500 scholarship winner, and you purchased the Pro bundle package, your out-of-pocket would be $0. The fair market value of the Pro essays only package is $300. But you know what? I'm going to pour it on a little more because we can do even better than this. For the next 3 days, the promo code accepted2020 will give you an additional 20% off both Pro packages. That's $100 and $60 in savings. So from right now until Tuesday, June 16th, the day before PTCAS opens at 11:55 p.m. Pacific time, you can receive all of this value at a fraction of the cost. Give me just a second here. If you are still looking at me like, Sean, I just can't financially swing this. Well, there is more good news, my friends. We have payment options. So if you can't make the straight up one-time payment today, we have monthly installment plans that cut the investment you make today to $66.67 for the Bundle Pro package and $48 for the Essays Pro package. Both of those prices are after the promo has already gone into effect. Also, there is a 30-day 100% money-back guarantee. If you are unsatisfied with the results of these coaching products, you can request a refund, no questions asked. That means that if you sign up today, you are doing so risk-free. Now, this is the promotional price of the coaching packages themselves, but let's talk about the value that is added to your future if you were to use these coaching services and significantly increase your chances of acceptance into a DPT program. So the cost of reapplying this next cycle to 10 programs is almost $700. If we work together and significantly improve your chances of being accepted into a DPT program, that is $695 that gets to stay in your pocket. You will have at least $3,000 in total savings from not purchasing unnecessary textbooks while in PT school. Yep, I'm not kidding. Those books are super expensive, and most of them will just sit on your bookshelf, except for a few of them. So that is nearly $4,000 between those two components alone that you will be able to keep in your pocket. People are going to really start paying attention when I mention that being 1 year closer to $60,000 to $90,000 in starting PT salary. That's huge. That's an enormous return on your investment right there. Using the extra resources I am offering you will help you master your finances and pay off your debts, which will save you immeasurable amounts of time, money, and future opportunities. You will be in a much better position to maximize and have greater control of your time and your opportunities in employment, networking, and entrepreneurial pursuits. You will be able to move forward with life, whether that means you want to get married and have kids, or purchase a new home or a car, obtain new skills, acquire some new hobbies, or travel and experience parts of the world that you have only dreamed about. You'll be making a lot of money for years to come. But one thing that you can never get back is time and opportunities. Money can and will be replenished, but time does not replenish. It disappears, and you will never be able to get it back. You can spend hours and days and months trying to write an amazing PTCAS essay by yourself, or you can save your time and effort because I have already perfected that process for you. And I pray this doesn't happen to any of you. But if you aren't accepted into a DPT program this cycle, I don't want you to spend the next year kicking yourself, wondering if working with me would have made the difference in your application or not. Sure, it will cost you money to get started, but more money will come, whereas the time you spend trying to figure it out on your own or waiting to apply until next year will be gone. Not to mention the future opportunities you'll be kissing goodbye by not getting accepted this cycle. Money, time, and opportunities have crazy immeasurable value attached to them. But what about the feelings you will have when you are able to achieve your goals? You will feel like a winner. You will have the satisfaction of achieving your goals and doing something difficult, silencing your doubts that you have had yourself and being able to say, I told you so to all the people who doubted you. I believe that one of the greatest thrills in life is to tell someone who didn't believe in you, look at me, I told you so. To strut into that pre-PT advisor's office who told you to pick another profession and to tell them, hey, I got accepted into PT school, no thanks to you. Maybe you should pick another job. To know that your future is secure and moving towards your larger goals. To feel respected and admired by your family, your peers, and your mentors. I remember when my wife told her grandmother, Grandma Joe, that I was accepted into PT school. Her eyes lit up and she raved about how much she loved physical therapy when she went for a hip injury. She also talked about how she knew how difficult it was to get into PT school. She spent the rest of the evening telling all of my wife's side of the family that I was going to be a doctor of physical therapy and how big of an achievement that was because it was tough to get into a DPT program. I'll tell you what, I felt like $1 million that day. And isn't that cool? Don't you want to feel like that? You will be recognized and respected for being a future doctor of physical therapy. If I had to sum up all these feelings into one word, I would say you want to feel accepted for who you are, for who you have worked so hard to become. Does that sound about right? In the pre-PT world, there are two types of people. There are doers and there are dabblers. Dabblers love to listen and learn, but they rarely do anything and make excuses for why they should not move forward. But you are a doer. You may not be exactly sure how it will all turn out, but you have seen how it's worked for me and for others, so you have faith that it will work for you as well. What I have found is that doers get ahead while dabblers get left behind. Would you exchange $66 for 6 months or $48 for 5 months for the results that I have just talked about? If so, let's get you started right away. And if you are completely satisfied, remember, there is a 30-day 100% money back guarantee. Once you take the jump and decide that you are ready to begin your coaching, you can say goodbye to the stress of not knowing if your PTCAS essay is good enough or if you will complete it in time. Because of how thorough my PTCAS checklist is, you won't have to worry about whether or not you completed the application correctly. Most important of all, when you get that acceptance offer, you will never have to worry about your application again. Can you imagine what life would be like when those stressful feelings disappear? You could spend your money on short-term pleasures that come and go, or you can invest your money in something that will help you achieve your greatest goals and your deepest desires, not to mention give you an enormous future return on your investment. The way I see it is you have two choices. Your first option is to leave this webinar and hope you can figure out how to use this information on your own. Your second option is to put up a very small investment today in comparison to the value that you will get in return. Just give it a shot. See if it will work for you. And if it doesn't meet your needs or expectations within the first 30 days, you will get 100% of your money back. There is no risk other than the stress and the headaches you'll likely experience by going at it on your own. If you are on the fence right now, it is time for you to click the purchase button on the coaching package that is right for you and get started. Remember, because there is a money back guarantee, there is no risk, but you won't know if it will work for you until you get started. Just as one last reminder, I have a 90% first-time application success rate for qualified applicants, with the majority of them being accepted into their top choice programs. This is opposed to the 56% acceptance rate from the most recent PTCAS applicant data report, which does not differentiate between first-time applicants and reapplicants. Qualified applicants who work with me have a 34% greater likelihood of getting into PT school than those who don't. Don't you want to have that kind of advantage when you apply to PT school? If so, let's get you started right now. I'm going to leave this slide up for those of you who are still thinking things over. But now I'm going to go back to the chat box and answer any questions that I didn't address during the presentation. We have access to the webinar room for another 30 minutes or so I will stay here and answer questions until then. If you have to leave, I totally understand, and you will be able to watch the Q&A session in the recording of the webinar that will be sent out to you in a few hours. Thank you so much for attending the webinar today. I hope you feel like you've learned something from what we have shared. Don't forget, you will receive an additional email also later today with a summary of key takeaways and additional information regarding the exclusive offer I have just shared with you. As a final reminder, this special promotional offer only lasts until Tuesday, June 16th at 11:55 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So if you are still on the fence, go ahead and sign up. There is no risk and nothing but a tremendous return on your investment. I hope that I will be able to work with all of you who have been on this webinar today. If I don't have the pleasure of working with you, I wish you the absolute best of luck as you apply this cycle. And if you have other questions about anything we have talked about today, please feel free to reach out on social media at the PTCAS or via email at info@physicaltherapyapplicationcoach.com. Switch this. Be safe, God bless, and happy applying, everybody. All right, let's get to your questions. If you've been hanging on to them, I want you to go ahead and type them in the chat box. Okay, come down here. So we got a lot of different things coming in. Going back through. You're welcome to everybody who was saying thank you. But yeah, I'm still here. If you've got questions, I'll stick around. Okay, Judy. Can we also go over supplemental essays? Okay, so supplemental essays, just like I talked about, Judy, you're going to follow the exact same format that we talked about for writing a PTCAS essay for supplemental essays. Now, the only thing that makes this somewhat difficult is sometimes the supplemental essays are shorter, but you're still going to apply the same principles. If you still feel like that didn't really answer your question, then you can put a follow-up one in there. Okay, let's look at Jose. Is it okay to include a particular patient case story in your essay, like to mention the feelings that you had with working with that patient? I definitely think so. I think that this is a good use of your story content because it does two things. It's going to help them remember you, and also it's going to help them see you in a physical therapist role, right? So as long as you're not just talking about, well, the first time I went to PT, I had this great experience. But if you're talking about a real patient experience that motivated you to want to continue to pursue this profession, that is more than appropriate. The only thing I'm going to tell you is you have to be careful with the details that you share in your essay. You don't want to have any HIPAA violations. So you're going to share stuff. You just share like their first name. You don't be specific about their injury or their what type of surgery they had, their doctor. Definitely don't mention their therapist's name or the location where they had therapy. So you can just be general, like if I had a patient that had a total knee replacement, I would just say, Susie, I worked with Susie and she had recently undergone knee surgery, and then continue from there. And that is de-identified enough that there's no way they can immediately trace her back to you. So hopefully that makes sense for your question, Jose. Okay, Morgan, how do you know which stories will be the more engaging ones? This is the tricky part, right? So what I usually tell people is if you start brain dumping and just listing out the stories that you think are interesting, that can be a good place to start. I really believe that every single essay has like its own spirit or soul kind of a thing, and that it wants to be written in a certain way so it can get you into PT school. And there's just going to be this feeling. I can't really describe it, but when applicants come to me and they say, hey, I've got like 3 or 4 stories, I don't know which one to pick. We sit down, we talk about it, and there's one that just feels right. It feels like that's the direction we need to go, and that's where we go. But if you have more questions about that, Morgan, I definitely want to continue to work with you and to be able to move forward with that. So if that's something you still have a question about, I would love to be able to talk about that. Okay. Do you as a currently working physical therapist have any tips for obtaining observation hours during the current pandemic? I live in Arizona and places are starting to open up and nobody seems to want to accept students. Okay. So great question. Briefly, while we're talking about this, since we're mostly talking about essays, but here you have, you have to do the best you can with observation hours at this time, right? So it's pretty universally understood that right now, most people can't get in and do inpatient observation. Most people are lucky if they can get in and do outpatient observation. So what I usually recommend is just, you're going to find the locations that you want to shadow at and just follow up with them, but you're going to bring up okay, I want to come in and help you with cleaning, and say like, I'm here to help you clean, or to make sure the equipment is wiped down after every person uses it. Come looking like you're going to be someone who will help the situation, as opposed to someone they're just going to have to worry about exposing someone else to COVID-19 to. So I hope that makes sense. I know, again, that's not the main focus of this webinar, but that's a good question. Okay, Jose, let's see. And an anoxic brain injury case. I don't want to be too specific about it. So I think even just saying that, so you could just say the patient's name, and that they had, due to hypoxic instances, they had a brain injury, right? And I think like the nitty gritty details, like some applicants feel like if I share a lot of medical jargon, that will make people think that I'm super smart, right? And that will make them want me to, they will want to have me come to their program because I know lots of PT words. So the actual terminology, you can be fairly basic, but it's the core essence of the story is what's most important. So again, focus on the first name, be very general with the diagnosis that the patient is being treated for. Don't mention anything specific about the facility or the provider that is providing care to that patient. And then you should be fine as far as HIPAA goes. If you are still concerned, you could always give them a fake name, and that doesn't matter. The name is just kind of a carrier. It's a pronoun to give to someone to help identify them in the story. It's not like, you're lying about the experience. You're just trying to protect the identity of that patient. So either use just their first name or make a fake name for them, and then you don't have to worry about it whatsoever. So I hope that helps. Okay, let's see here. Still got time, guys. We rocketed through the questions. So anything else that you guys have, I'm more than happy to share this with you guys and to go through. So let me get rid of that one. Pull this up. If you've got anything else, go ahead and type them into the chat box, and we can address those for the next little bit. If you guys feel like you're all gassed out and you're tired, you need some food, then go for it. And you can always connect with me on social media. Okay, here's one. Vilma, I'm good. Thanks for asking. Judy, you are very welcome. I'm really grateful for your. Okay, Patrick, some other beneficial things to add besides stories. Okay, so obviously when you're including these stories, you're going to provide some supporting dialogue. But for the most part, I literally use the story to tell and to teach the points that I want to drive home, because doing so is going to help you to identify. It's going to be like Inception. You're going to put an idea in someone's head without directly telling them, hey, this is what this person thinks about themselves, right? So yes, you're going to use stories. You're going to anchor those stories to your strengths. And then on top of that, you're going to provide some supporting dialogue that talks about, hey, this is why I would be a good physical therapist, or this is why you should pick me, right? Okay, let's see here. I hope that helps, Patrick. So let's see here, a GRE question. Besides practice tests and study books, how would you prepare for the GRE? Honestly, my friend, that is what I do. So the system I use, I do help coach pre-PTs as well, with like GRE study, other things like that. I'm definitely not a GRE expert, but the system that I've used that's been most effective is you just use lots of practice tests, and then you study your areas of weakness. And by the time you go to take the test, you've taken so many practice tests that it's comfortable for you and it's easy to take the test. But on top of that, you've been exposed to so much content that you've been able to review and remember. So those are some things that I would typically recommend as well. Another guy that I like a lot on YouTube is Greg Matt, for Greg Matt GRE Prep. He's awesome. He does really, really well. And I don't know him personally or anything, and this isn't a plug for him. Well, I guess it is, but not because I get anything from it. So he's just someone that I really appreciate his method. He's very simple, he's very thorough, and he adds a lot of value without just saying, oh, the only way you can get my information is if you pay a ton on test prep stuff. So I hope that helps. Okay, Jose, you are on it with the questions, my man. I appreciate it. That's good. So for this essay, do we have to include how COVID-19 affects us, or is that not necessary? So it has not been 100% confirmed, but there is some communication that was located where there will be a separate essay that will talk about how COVID-19 has impacted your application. So definitely you can include COVID-19 as an option as well. Another thing, I hesitate to tell people, just include COVID-19, because guess what? Every applicant is going to include COVID-19. So for the COVID-19 specific essay, absolutely make sure you have some legitimate reasons and some legitimate ways that COVID has impacted you. But I wouldn't just say, oh, I'm going to kind of complain about how COVID messed up my application in my PTCAS essay, if that makes sense. Oh, what's up, Kayla? Okay, just to clarify, is it okay to write in first person, or should we write like the process of creative writing? So I always feel like it's totally fine to write in first person. You can write like it's happening to you. And I think just like taking them through and saying like, this was the experience that I had. I think that is more relatable because it's less passive, it's more engaging, and it's more interactive. And as a result of that, it's going to be more, I'm not even going to say like the creative writing process. It's just more natural. It's more conversational, and it makes someone remember the content that you're sharing with them a lot more, because it's not like, oh, this was all in the past, right? It's like it's happening right now, and their brain is having to interpret what's happening, how they're going to respond to it, all that kind of stuff. So I hope that it answers your question, Kayla. But keep them coming, guys. We still got a few more minutes we'll go through. Gotta take a sip because I'm thirsty. It's a beautiful day though. Okay. All right. You're welcome, Kayla. All right, let's see here. I have only a couple stories for this essay. I really do not know how to organize them to where it looks presentable, because when I go over it in my head, it just sounds like a long dialogue. So that is the piece that you're going to insert is, yes, the majority of your essay is going to focus on stories. But on top of that, and again, if you want to work with me, I promise that we can iron that out, because every applicant's situation is different with like, okay, how much of the story do I share versus now I come in and I add some supporting dialogue that talks about, okay, this is why I'm going to be a good physical therapist, right? Or these are some things that are important to consider why I would be a good or strong therapist. So it's, you're not just going to write the story and then be like, boom, that's it. You need to, after you've showcased your story, your strengths in a story, you need to take a step back and say, okay, well, this is why I'm sharing this. This is why it's relevant to my future career as a physical therapist, or why this makes me a good candidate to get into your program. And I feel like once you've done that, that will really help you stand out and separate you from other essays that maybe they just write a story, right? Or maybe you, instead, you're saying you're giving a story, but you're also giving some supplementary or complementary dialogue to talk about why that's relevant and how it's going to help you make a decision that I should be in your program. All right, Brooke, I wanted to do PT since injury at high school, undergrad, lost motivation. Family member. I am sorry about your family member. Spark back my drive. Feel hesitant to discuss that because of mentioning that brief period of losing my passion towards PT prior to that event. So that's a great point. So again, Brooke, I want to give you as much specific detail as I can, right? And I'll give you my generic one-off that I would look at for right now. But if I really would love to work with you to be able to get that solidified. So at this point, I feel like you don't necessarily have to share that you lost your passion, because in reality, what really lit the fire under you is what just happened, right? So talking about how, this family member had their quality of life brought back to them, it can be a huge angle that you can take. There's some people feel like, oh, well, I'm not sharing the entire story. That's okay. You can omit some details because the core idea is, this is why I want to be in this profession. This is why I'm passionate. This is how it's impacted me. This is why I want to come in and make a difference. Okay. Yes. So for the essay services itself, it's not just the PTCAS essay. So let's say we work on your PTCAS essay for a couple of coaching calls, and you want to work on a supplemental essay, you absolutely can. Also, if you have other essays that you really feel like you're struggling with, then you can also purchase additional coaching sessions at a discounted cash rate. So that's another option that we could talk about. So it's not just your PTCAS essay, but typically what happens is I teach you the process with your PTCAS essay, and then you're like, okay, I get the idea. I know what I'm doing. I've walked you through the process enough that you can trust yourself to do it in additional essays. And then if you have a hard time figuring out, okay, this is what I need to do for this essay, I definitely could work with you on that sense. I hope that makes sense, and hopefully I'll be able to work with you and we can work on all of those. Okay. Would you recommend avoiding, like when I was a kid? Yes, I would. I hate cliches. So cliches are lazy, and I don't know why we use them so much in application essays. Like the logic behind them is very counterintuitive. So when I was a kid, it's almost like Once Upon a Time to me. Like it kind of sounds like nails against a chalkboard. So what you're going to say instead is you're just going to jump in, right? So part of what I tell people is I want you to pretend like you are directing a trailer for a movie that has to be more popular than Avengers, right? And what would that trailer start out like if we were telling this story? What would it be like to grab your attention immediately? And so that's what I usually have people start out with. And A, it's not cliche, and B, it's actually useful and helps your essay stick out. So good question, Jose. You've come out guns a-blazing, man, and you all have. I really appreciate all the questions you guys have shared. If you've got any more, I'm happy to continue to go through those. Again, you guys, if you're still on the fence, there's a 34% greater likelihood of being able to get into PT school if you're working with me versus if you're just going at it alone. So if you're still on the fence, let's take the jump. Go ahead, jump in. I'll switch the offer real quick if you are just curious in the essays only package. Okay. All right. Are you guys still there? I'm sorry about that. My feed just jumped out on me. And then the chat closed out. So if you put in a message, I know someone sent me a private message. If you're still on the call, please send me another one back. I'm sorry about that. I clicked on a button on accident and it totally booted me out of the webinar. So I apologize. But someone sent me a private message. Hopefully they're still on and they can send it to me because unfortunately I did not get to read it. And I want to be able to answer that. But thank you guys all so much for your time. I really appreciated it. And best of luck applying. Again, hopefully I'll be able to work with you guys more closely as we move forward and we go into this application season. Okay? All right, awesome. Glad you signed up. That's great.